AV in your ears, that's Ambush Vid, giving you this audio visual down the most interesting street in the world. With my boy Steve, Fascination Street, you already know. Let's get it when you whip in the Fascination Street. What do you...
This is Geoffrey Blake, and you are listening to Fascination Street Podcast with the wonderful Steve.
Yeah, AV in your ears, that's Ambush Vid, giving you this audio visual down the most interesting street in the world. With my boy Steve, Fascination Street, you already know. Let's get it when you whip in the Fascination Street. What do you...
Welcome back, Streetwalkers. This episode is with the great and talented Geoffrey Blake. You all know Geoffrey Blake because he has been in such films as Young Guns, Castaway, Contact, Forrest Gump. He's been in such TV shows as Godfather of Harlem, The Man in the High Castle, Grimm, Charmed, and the other Charmed, like both Charms. He was in the old Charmed and the new Charmed. Guy's been in everything. He still is in everything. He is amazing. Franklin and Bash, I mean, I'm telling you what. And here's the thing. We talk about almost none of those projects. I think we talk about Young Guns a little while. But really in this episode, we get to understand who Geoffrey is, why he became an actor, and why he still loves doing it. We do go off on a little bit of a tangent talking about some of Geoffrey and his wife's screenwriting career and a great story about how he personally played a role in getting the Paparazzi to be designated as aggressive panhandlers in Santa Monica. That's a really cool story. And we talk at the beginning about his growing up, his family. They moved around a bunch. We find out why. His whole family is basically D1 athletes in multiple different sports, in multiple different schools. So we talk some about that too. And Geoffrey just shares some great stories. I mean, dude's a legendary screenwriter. So of course he is a storyteller. And then we also talk about some acting classes that he was in and some that he teaches. Geoffrey Blake is an actor who also teaches acting. And so we talk a little bit about that and what that actually means and why he continues to do it. I have a verbal commitment that Geoffrey's going to come back to do round 2. I hope that that holds because we haven't even cracked the shell of the egg that is Geoffrey Blake. And this is my first conversation with the wonderfully talented and prolific Geoffrey Blake.
Prepare to be fascinated. Prepare to be fascinated. Prepare to be fascinated.
Welcome to Fascination Street Podcast, Geoffrey Blake. What's up, dude?
How are you, man?
I'm not going to complain now because I complained long before I hit record and you got an earful. So thank you for being my therapist today.
That was all good.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, streetwalkers, if you will, this is Geoffrey Blake, a man so good at acting. He once teamed up with Spencer Garrett and they played Sideburns and Mustache. Mustache and Sideburns. Sideburns and Mustache.
Yes, how did you know that? That's so obscure. Yeah, I actually got Spencer to do that for a friend of mine who was creating that graphic novel voice casting thing, Scott Weil. Got him to do it, got Xander Berkeley to do it, got some other people to help my friend out. But yes, Spencer, that was Spencer's and I's, we've known each other for 44 years. But yeah, I think that's the first time we've ever donned a microphone or graced a screen together, so.
Mustache and sideburns aside, it seems like you're a bit of an influencer getting all your friends to work on these projects.
I don't know. I think we're all influencers. It gets to the point now where, you've been doing it for so long, you've worked with so many people. I always say that I judge my career as being a successful career, not by how much I've worked or how much I've been hired, but how many times I've been rehired by the same person. So I'm doing something right if Bob Zemeckis is hiring me movie after movie, Ron Howard movie after movie, etc. But as we move along, it's those colleagues, as Bill Paxton used to call it, the circus. And he and I have done a lot of collaborations together because of him. So, when I did Texas Rising, it was Bill who got me the job on Texas Rising to be his sidekick. A few other movies, like one Sunday night last year, I was at my kid's baseball game. My phone rings and it's Dermot Mulroney. And Dermot is saying, "Hey, Jeff, what are you doing tomorrow?" It was a Sunday. And I said, "I don't know. What am I doing tomorrow, Dermot? You're doing this movie with me." I'm not going to say any disparaging, but there was a guy playing a part. And so I told the director, I'd rather work with you. And so they'll be calling you and come do it.
And did that happen?
It did. Yeah, it happens all the time. Lou Diamond Phillips and I are collaborating on him directing a script that we wrote. And, now we're just dealing with rights with Paramount and how to get them back. And we wrote it for Paramount. That, because Paramount's being sold and being held hostage.
Who are they selling to?
Paramount's being sold to Skydance.
Oh, well, okay. Wow.
That's all being arbitrated in the courts.
Sure.
Because it has to do with CBS. That's the part that's the holdup.
Gotcha. You
just mentioned it to you. Hey, I'm doing this thing. You don't have the shame to ask, well, is there anything in it I could do? And they'll say, oh, yeah, what do you do? Let me go. That's just the way it works. People think Hollywood's this really big place. Hollywood's dead, but they think that LA, but it's not. It really is a very small insular community of people who, we've done it for so long and we have mutual respect for each other that we tend to, you want to work with the same members of the circus, as Bill Paxton said.
When I started doing this is when I really started to notice how networked everybody is. And it's not just in the film industry and television, but also, musicians and authors. Like everybody in everything is connected in every way. And it is astounding to me how deep those connections go. It's wild.
Did you have a good time with Yule last week?
Yule?
He's the best.
I am in love with Yule Vasquez. He is the absolute nicest guy. He is a sweetheart. I love him so much now. I mean, I liked his work before, and some of the times I've heard him in interviews and things, but just face to face, that guy is the bee's knees.
Great musician, kindest, most inclusive. I agree.
And his art, his photography, and his paintings are just beyond.
He is a true Renaissance man.
Oh, yeah, he does it all. And he's married to a princess. What? Oh, my God.
There you go.
Okay, so, Geoffrey, what I like to do is I like to start from the beginning. It helps us understand how the guests got from where they were to where they are. So where were you born and raised, man? Where did you grow up?
I grew up all over the world.
Why?
And then I ultimately ended up in Northern California for a good portion of my younger, 10 on. Why? I can tell you now why. I wouldn't have been able to a few years back. I suspected my whole life once I became an adult and became cognitive and aware of how the world works. My father was in the CIA, although he ended up becoming an estranged father. Anyway.
This is the same father who was a lacrosse legend?
Yes, a lacrosse legend. Basically, that was one of the reasons I realized, mapping out that I lived in places, particularly in those few years up to like 12, they were all in politically volatile places. And there were always things at Monument in which things happened.
So shit was going down every place you lived?
Yes. Michael Dukakis and my father were college classmates at a place called Swarthmore University.
I think you have to say it like Swarthmore.
Swarthmore. You do, for sure, with that Philadelphia snooty accent, which I still possess. My grandmothers, my grandpa, everybody went to Swarthmore. My parents grew up in Swarthmore. When Michael Dukakis was running for president, he said, when he was, I think it was Time magazine, he said, so I went to this very, very elite East Coast seaboard, originally Quaker school called Swarthmore, on the level academically with the Harvards and the Yales and the Columbia, that kind of level of academia. And our school was made up of two factions. It was made up of us, me, who were the poli-sci majors, political science majors, and we all went into politics. And then there was the other faction of the school that were the engineering majors, that were the jocks. He was the supreme jock at that school. They went into the CIA.
Whoa.
So my father went from Swarthmore. He was actually drafted in the NFL, which made no money in those days. He was drafted by the Baltimore Colts.
Yeah, that was back when you had to have a week job, and then the weekend was your...
Exactly. You had to pack groceries or do something during the week. So he was drafted based on his athleticism as a lacrosse player by the Baltimore Colts. He had played on a very famous NC2A all-star team that had Jim Brown.
For lacrosse?
Yeah. Jim Brown played football and lacrosse at Syracuse.
Oh, wow.
So he played on this NC2A all-star team. And my grandfather, Avery Blake Sr.,
also a lacrosse legend?
He was the coach. He's in the Hall of Fame of lacrosse as well. He was the one-time coach of the one time it was at the Olympics in Berlin.
Hold on. Your grandfather coached an Olympic lacrosse team in Berlin? And that was in the 40s? Is that the one that Hitler was at?
Yes, he met Hitler. That's not something we're really excited about. I met Jim Brown at a St. Jude's event, the event they have in here for, Danny Thomas, Marlo Thomas's hospital that treats cancer kids. Amazing organization. And so I was at this event at Century City, and I saw him, and I walked up to him and I said, "Excuse me, Mr. Brown, but I believe you played lacrosse with my father. And I believe my grandfather coached you in this all-star team." And he goes, "Oh, the Avery Blakes. Yes, yes. Let me tell you something about your dad, son." I was like, "Okay." He goes, "Second greatest lacrosse player ever."
Oh, snap. I thought he was going to say something crazy.
No, that was really complimentary, but clearly wanted sure that he knew that he was the greatest lacrosse player along with the greatest football player ever. But of course, that's what brought eyes and attention to my father being drafted in the NFL.
So your dad was drafted. Did he ever play football?
No, he didn't. He ended up getting offered, like Officer and a Gentleman, an officer's training, naval training. So he went to officer candidate school, became a naval engineer, which is also a huge recruiting ground for the CIA. Ultimately, the CIA life became his path, and he lived an entirely secret life from that point on, and all the implications of that. I ended up, doing a project with Bob Baer, who's a very famous CIA agent who was a contributor on CNN a lot. He was chief of station in Lebanon and Libya, Hezbollah, Hamas, all that. Once my dad passed, I said, "Bob, this is what I've always thought." He basically just gave me a very strong wink saying, "Yeah, your dad was involved in some pretty incredible stuff." The two examples I'll give that, you'll figure it out. We lived when I was a child in 1963. I was 1 year old. We lived in New Orleans for a year.
Oh, God damn. I thought you were going to say you lived in Dallas. Okay, you lived in New Orleans?
No, but that's where Dallas was being planned. That's where all of it was being planned. So that's where he was. That's where the shooter was. But also what was going on, linking back to Ewell, it also was where the CIA was recruiting and plotting the Bay of Pigs.
Wow.
So you have Lee Harvey Oswald in New Orleans in 1963. You had the Bay of Pigs going down in 1963 of all the anti-Castro warriors that had fled. And you also have New Orleans was a place where they had these very famous detainee rooms where they had a lot of interrogation of communists and etc. But enough about my father. I don't even like my father. Never did.
One quick thing that I learned fairly recently is that on that fateful day in 1963 in Dallas,
November 22nd.
There you go.
Wait for it. November 22nd is my father's birthday.
Shut the fuck up. Are you serious?
I'm serious.
Wow. Okay, so that day there was 4 United States presidents in Dallas that day. That blew me away.
Right.
So obviously Kennedy and Johnson, but also Nixon was in town doing some fundraiser, and then I think the head of the CIA at that time was George Herbert Walker Bush, right?
Yep.
I guess your dad's boss.
Exactly.
We're definitely going to stop talking about that.
Let's transitioning because I don't want to talk about him anymore.
For all of you who are listening in a room somewhere, we're going to move on.
Yeah.
Hey, Streetwalkers, here's a word from our sponsors. Let's get back into it.
We're going to bounce all over the place because you have such a wild and fascinating career.
Yes, I'm here. Let's go.
A few years ago, right around the same time that your buddy Bill Paxton did, you had an open heart surgery.
Same here.
R.I.P. Bill. He was amazing.
One of my dearest friends and influencer in my life.
It broke my heart, but I didn't even know him, so I can't imagine what it was like for you and all of the rest of the people who actually knew him.
Fellow Texan for you.
Do you feel comfortable telling me why you needed an open heart surgery?
The father. It's completely hereditary.
Was it the same sort of a thing that Bill had?
Not at all.
Oh.
Bill had a heart defect that he was born with.
Mm-hmm.
They had to repair that. And I was just straight up blocked arteries, cholesterol-based, stress-based, but hereditary. My father had a quadruple bypass at 53. Don't know if my grandfathers did, and my brother, who's 4 years older than I am, he's the one that started the course, the path for discovery. As I said, we were estranged from my father. So he called me up one day from the ski slope up in Tahoe. We each call each other Big Brother Big. I call him Big too. Big, I just had an incident on the ski slope. I have to have a quadruple bypass.
Jesus.
Emergency. I'll be having that tomorrow. They say it's all hereditary. My brother was a triathlete. Both of us were Division I athletes. That's hereditary. That's also hereditary. So he ended up having the surgery. And then, of course, with my wife's suggestion, I immediately went to a cardiologist. And I had no symptoms. I had nothing. Basically, I went to the UCLA cardiologist, and that's what we have to go to, a SAG. He said, okay, so what I want to do is I want to put you into this program because you're so young. I was 54 at the time. You're so young that we have an experiment where people who are at risk with hereditary, we're putting them on two paths. It's a blind study, and we're going to do invasive, which is people who are going to get stents and they're going to get angioplasts and all that stuff. And then we're going to also treat some people with just the new medicines and see if that reduces your risk. I was put on the new medicine path. Now he said, but we also have to do a CAT scan and we need to do all the imaging of your heart because, there's only one minor thing that would make you not qualified for the program. There's a 2% chance that you would have something that is called left main disease. Very rare. Most people do not have it, particularly at your age. I'm not worried that you're going to have it because by your EKG, I don't think you're going to have left main disease. Pretty confident of that. And then he said, an even greater thing about this is you get paid. I go, that is great. I love to be paid.
Oh, you get paid for the study? Nice.
They pay for the study and they pay for the surgery. If I was going to have one ever, that didn't happen. But ultimately, I'm at a writer's meeting on Sunset Plaza. I'll never forget Sunset Plaza. I'm just about to go in the meeting when I get a text from this doctor. And he says, you need to call me right away. And I called him right away from the car before I went into the meeting. And he says, you can't be in the program. You have left main disease. So I need to get you to another doctor because this is not the kind of thing I deal with. He goes, I'm a cardiologist. I'm not a surgeon. So he gets me up with another doctor that I have a meeting with. And ultimately, what you don't want to do, and Steve, you don't want to Google left main disease on WebMD or any of those things. Because I literally went into this meeting. We were late anyway, sat down with these people. We were pitching them a movie project. And I excused myself to go to the men's room. And what do? I start checking what left main disease is. And the first thing I read is diagnosis to death, 6 weeks. Now, I stopped reading there.
Yeah, you didn't have time to finish reading. You got 6 weeks, bro.
But what I didn't know is that what that meant was 6 weeks if you don't have surgery.
Got you.
Literally, I go meet with this doctor. And he assures me that he's never lost a patient, that he's doing this as a favor, and he's actually a transplant doctor.
Well, hold on. If he's doing it for a favor, then he was doing it for free.
Yes. And ultimately, I found out that my brother, who is very, 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 very wealthy, he had actually had his heart doctor call this heart doctor to give it a little less nudge that, it would be good for him to do this.
Nice. Thanks, Big.
Yeah, we don't need to go there either. Another complicated human being.
Sure.
So ultimately, I go meet Dr. Artahali. You need him, Dr. Artahali. Plug for him. And he tells me I need the surgery. And then he tells me he's going on a trip. I said, okay, because you're not going to die in the time I'm on my trip. And then I say to him, okay, good, because a week after your trip, I'm supposed to shoot a Geico commercial. And I really want to do the Geico commercial because what you're telling me is I'm going to be down off the market for about 9 months to a year to recover. So I did the Geico commercial, and literally it carried us through the entire 9 months of the year. Thank God for Geico. Then right after the surgery, I turned 55, and then I collected my SAG pension early. And so I had my SAG pension, and I had Geico, and we were fine.
Which Geico commercial was it?
Washington crosses the Delaware. Jim Meskimen, the most wonderful impersonator of the world, he played George Washington, and he was on a boat, and he was being pushed across the Delaware highway. And I was the annoyed driver, late for work or whatever. I had just done another job before that where I had this very forward, 70s porn stash. And I couldn't shave it for the commercial audition. And so I was in the fitting for the commercial audition, and I had worked with this director many times before. I said, of course, you want me to lose the mustache, right? He goes like that. He goes, no, dude, I hired the mustache. I didn't hire you. I hired the mustache.
So how are you doing these days? Like, how's your heart, buddy?
8th year anniversary was just a few days ago.
Yay, you're alive. I appreciate that. I'm so happy you're alive, buddy. You've been in everything.
Yeah.
You have done all of the movies, every movie that anybody's ever seen, you're in it. All the movies that are awesome and matter, you're in it.
Okay. I'll take that.
But we're going to go back a little bit. You got into Juilliard, but your parents wouldn't pay for it?
I almost wore my Juilliard athletics hat that I was actually given last time I was in New York. Told the girl at the register my story, and she gifted me this hat. Basically, yes, I got into Juilliard. I had auditioned through the leagues and done all that. I'd done a bunch of regional theater at that point, even though I was only 17. Basically, my parents, my father certainly, they didn't want me to be an actor.
Did they think it was beneath?
No, they didn't want me to be an actor. They didn't want me to have everything around acting, which is what Juilliard is. So they said, you need to go to a 4-year college and get a regular education. And all young actors, this is directly to you if you're watching this, do not listen to this. Do not listen to the advice. Go for your dream. Do not allow them to tell you, you need something to fall back on. Bullshit. If you're working and living your acting career and you're still have that little knowledge or your little escape route to fall back on, you're never going to make it as an actor. You got to be 100% all in. And it devastated me. And then basically what happened is John Houseman, who was the head of the school at that time, he had a relationship with Duncan Ross at USC Theater School. And that qualified as a 4-year program for my parents. But it also ended up that I was a Division I athlete. So I could use some of that towards being an actor. Went to USC for 2 years, was in a acting program with Forrest Whitaker, with Eric Stoltz, with Ali Sheedy, with Tate Donovan, with Kathleen Wilhoit. I mean, just an incredible class at USC. Anthony Edwards was in that class. And we all started by our sophomore year getting work. It was the heyday of teen films. I got a job. Eric got a job. Anthony got a job. Forrest got a job. They all got Fast Times at Ridgemont High, actually, all 3 of them.
Anthony was in Fast Times? Anthony Edwards?
He and Eric Stoltz were the 2 stoner dudes who were falling out of the van all the time.
Oh, shit. I didn't recognize Anthony. I thought Anthony's first thing was Gotcha, which was a weird paintball movie.
We all had long hair. He had long blonde hair. And yeah, it was Eric. And they were, dudes, the guy's falling out of the van with smoke pouring out of it.
And Sean Penn was in your class too, right? Or was that the Loft?
No, that's another. So now we're getting to the Sean Penn phase. So after a sophomore year, I carried mine into my junior year because I had to fulfill an athletic thing. But we all left and we got invited to a place called the Loft Studio, which is an affiliate of the Actors Studio at the time. And it was Peggy Fury was her name, and her husband's name was William Traylor. His 2 daughters, Stephanie Fury and her sister, both went to the Loft. You had to be invited to be at the Loft Studio. You had to meet them, sit down. Some of the people had to audition, or they just and sit with Bill and Peggy. In that class, it was 4 days a week at the Loft Studio, which is a wonderful little black box space on La Brea Avenue. And you went to school in the morning 4 hours a day, every day. And in that class, it was split up into Mondays and Wednesdays, Tuesdays and Thursdays, the 2 different classes. Then on Friday, you all came together and you presented work in the theater. That class, Sean Penn, Chris Penn, Eric Stoltz, Forrest Whitaker, myself, Michelle Pfeiffer, Meg Ryan, Meg Tilly, Jennifer Tilly, Jim Carrey, Johnny Depp would drop in every now and then, Angelica Houston, Kira Sedgwick, Meg Ryan, and there's even more, people who went on to do other things. That was all one class.
That is insane.
Insane, for sure.
Hey, Streetwalkers, here's a word from our sponsors.
Warning. Not listening to Fascination Street podcast may cause unexpected side effects. Side effects may include sudden fits of boredom, irrational curiosity about everything you missed, the inability to name your favorite podcast interview, spontaneous ignorance of obscure celebrity stories, talking to coworkers about nothing because you didn't hear the latest episode. Other symptoms may include excessive use of the phrase, "Wait, what happened?" Chronic seriousness with no trace of laughter or delight, unexplainable urge to scroll aimlessly instead of being entertained. In rare cases, not listening may lead to wandering aimlessly through podcast apps, overexposure to true crime reruns, and thinking you're cooler than you actually are. If you find yourself experiencing any of these symptoms, stop what you're doing immediately and download Fascination Street Podcast. Ask your podcaster if Fascination Street Podcast is right for you. Spoiler alert, it is.
Let's get back into it.
Now that we have talked a little bit about acting classes, you, my friend, are an actor who teaches. Do you still teach classes?
And thank you for saying that, by the way. That is literally how I define myself. Yes, I do. I teach virtually. There is a wonderful Canadian actor named Kyle Warren who has created I had my own during pandemic time called the Working Actors Studio. That was for the pandemic. I teach one night a week. I teach a master class. And yes, I am 100% an actor who teaches. I'm not an acting teacher. And there's a difference because I mentor and I consider my colleagues and I talk about acting from the process and the work and the craft and career guidance as well. Acting teachers tend to, not all of them, but they tend to have a very set way in which they teach the craft, usually some sort of dogmatic, whether it's the method, whether it's Stella, whether it's imaginative work, Michael Chekhov, which is outward, inward, but that's not. I teach all disciplines, because of the loft, the affiliation with the Actors Studio. I do teach the method. I also teach, I had worked with Stella Adler before. I'm influenced by Larry Moss, Peggy Fury, and Uta Hagen. But the one night a week, it's very cost effective. And you have to be selected to be in my class. I keep it usually at 10 or 12 people because I want everybody to work every week. And I do it because Peggy was such a wonderful mentor to me. Larry Moss was a wonderful mentor to me that I think it's really important to keep the craft alive, particularly in the times now, of TikTok and influencers and shortcuts and everybody wanting everything now. And they're not willing to put in the work. They want immediate gratification. And acting it's a deep craft. And you need to work at your craft. Do you think Shohei Ohtani or those people don't go in the cage every day and hit and work on their craft? It's the same with acting. It's a discipline. It's a discipline of the craft of acting. And that is what carries the day. If you focus on the discipline of the craft of acting rather than the myopic self-indulgence of acting and the me, what am I going to get? I'm never going to work. Wham, 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 wham. And really focus on what drives you, what makes you exciting. When I speak at actors' studios, particularly college studios or younger actors, or in a seminar I'm giving online about the craft of acting, the main thing I ask actors is I will say to them, okay, so it's a trick for sure. I'll say to them, so is there anything else in your life, anything that you could do that you would be just as passionate about as being an actor? And then I'll raise their hand. They say, I want to be
I want to be a fry cook in Phoenix.
Yeah, I want to be whatever. I want to cook steaks. I want to be the bear. I want to, I want to be a chef. I want to do. Then I would literally say to them, Steve, I'll say, then do that. Because if you're not 100% in, and if you're not, as Stella Adler said, one of my very favorite quotes, is to be an actor, you have to have the soul of a rose, but you also have to have the hide of a rhinoceros. And this is why I'm trying to weed out this generation of actors, the ones who want to really just do this, is you have to understand that they come from a generation, this new younger generation. And I love a lot of them. I'm not just beseeching and my kids are as well. They come from what I call the everybody gets a trophy generation. When they play Little League now, or when they play Pop Warner, or they play this, your team can be the worst team and never won a single game, but yet at the end of the year, you still get a participation trophy.
Yep.
That doesn't happen in life. And it certainly doesn't happen as an actor. Just because you gave a great audition or just because they're calling you in, it doesn't mean you're going to get the part. I just gave a fantastic, and I'm not literally was. I wouldn't say it if it wasn't. I gave a fantastic audition for this TV show on Monday. It's actually a producer I've worked for before and casting people I've worked for before. And because of the new world order of self-tapes, not going into the room, not seeing them. It's now Friday. I haven't heard a word. I haven't heard anything. So I don't know if it went into fell into a wormhole somewhere. Nothing. And you just go, wow. And I'm sure you would have tested to that too as well. It's like, wow, what? So you have to have that's the height of the rhino part.
The class that you teach, is that different from the working actor's journey?
The Working Actor's Journey was basically a podcast, but before podcasts were big. And it was it was a Zoom show. So basically, I'd put out every week. This was height of the pandemic. Nobody could go anywhere. We were all trapped in our homes. I would invite my colleagues, all the colleagues you've had on.
Including Eric and Eliza Roberts.
Yes, including Eric and Eliza Roberts, who I've known Eliza forever. She was a casting director for many, many years. She put me in a lot of things. I've known Eric forever, just as an actor. And also we were collaborating years ago as a producer. He wanted to, I used to have a production company with Martin Sheen called Symphony Pictures. He wanted to do this one particular book that he wanted to star in. And so we were working on producing it. So ultimately, I always run into Eric and Eliza at these Comic-Con things. Yeah, so they were fun. They're a cute, wacky couple.
They are cute together. I had them both on as a couple, and we had so much fun.
Yeah, they're great.
So do you still do?
I don't do the Working Actor's Journey anymore. I don't, but I had a great time. All the people on, Dermot was on, Larry Moss was on, Sharon Lawrence was on, Giancarlo Esposito was on.
Can I ask why you don't do it anymore?
If I do it as what you do. I would do it as a podcast. Steve, it was all craft based. We'd come on and we would talk. It wouldn't be like an interview. It would be about craft. How do they approach the work? What was your process in this? Tell me about working with, Scorsese. Tell me about working with Sorkin. Tell me about working, all of that, just so actors could hear. Tell me about your struggles. Tell me about when talked about when Spencer was on. We talked about, his years of struggling as a bartender and it was very raw and open. It was live. So you had 150, 200 actors who would ask questions.
And you had JDM on there, right? Because he struggled like crazy. Jeffrey Dean Morgan?
I did not, actually.
You didn't? Oh, wow.
No, I had his wife on.
Interesting.
JDM was so busy with The Walking Dead at that point.
Oh, okay.
I had Hillary on.
Hillary Burton, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, I had Hillary on with Willie Garson.
Oh, R.I.P.
Yeah, so they were very close friends, and they had done the show together. And so I had the two of them on, and it was great. And it was, I still have to find that, actually, because I don't even know where they are. But
I was going to ask, are those available anywhere where people can check them out?
I don't know if I saved any of them. I don't know if they did or not. I want to find that one in particular because I'd like to send it to his son.
That's sweet. Did you say they were recorded on Zoom?
Yeah, so they may be out there somewhere.
It might be in your computer.
It might be. I don't want to know what's in my computer.
Okay, so a couple of times we have referenced that you were a D1 athlete. That was not in lacrosse like the whole family. That was in tennis, right?
I grew up in Northern California, so I was in tennis.
Were you on the same level as Lars Ulrich from Metallica? That guy was a tennis guy.
I don't remember playing against Lars. I played a lot against the McEnroe, younger McEnroe, that generation, the Bollettieri kids.
Oh, okay. And you ball boyed for Elias Stasi?
I did. How did you find this out? You're a freaking incredible detective. Yes, I did. There was a tennis tournament in the country club that I played tennis at called the Fireman's Fund in Northern California. There was a professional tournament there every year, and all of us junior players were the ball boys. He was my idol.
Yeah. Did you learn anything from him?
Eli Nastasi and John McEnroe were my idols. John McEnroe played at Stanford where my brother was going. I was an actor through and through on the tennis court. Like my mother would not come to certain matches because I was very dramatic, as was Nastasi.
And McEnroe.
I broke rackets. I broke, I was a lot. I hated it. Hated playing tennis.
Well, at least you were good at it.
That's true.
Okay, this is a weird question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Tell me how Mrs. Gilliland's sugar cookies changed the path of your life.
Oh my God. Mrs. Gilliland. Yes. Wherever you are. Hello, Mrs. Gilliland. Sam was her son's name. So she's probably maybe no longer with us, but Sam certainly is. So yes, my very first acting job, I was 7 years old. Boy in the Manger, I believe was the name of the play at the Methodist Church. And I was the boy in the manger. I was the star of the show. I say it was the very last time I was ever number one on the call sheet. It's the very number time that I was above the title and that the title of the character was me. So yes. And then afterwards, I got such attention from everybody. But most importantly, I had a whole batch of cookies, sugar cookies by Mrs. Gilliland cooked for me. And they were the most outrageous sugar cookies you could ever imagine. And from that point on, I said, this is what I want to do with my life.
Well, thank you, Miss Gilliland.
Mm-hmm.
Of all of the movies that you have been in and all of the television projects that you've been in, there's one that I'm going to ask you right now. Can I be in Young Guns 1 with you, please? Can we just go back and do that? I want to be in Young Guns so bad.
You hit the right one, for sure. I was literally asked by my wife the other day about what my favorite movie experience was.
Was that it?
It was it. And as you've just heard, that group of men, we were young men at that time, young guns. That group of men have had such a major influence on my life. As I said, Dermot is a confidant, a friend forever. Lou is a confidant and a friend forever. Emilio is a dear, dear friend, confidant forever. The four of us there, and Charlie is Charlie, and Kiefer is Kiefer. And Casey.
Shamasco.
We're like, where did he go?
Where did he go? What happened, Casey? Casey, come back.
I don't know. Casey and I also were in a movie called Secret Admirer with C. Thomas Howell.
Yeah.
And I actually had sent out both to Dermot and Lou and C. Thomas a quick screenshot capture of Casey in his sister Nina's Instagram feed.
Whoa.
It's the only one on. There's one shot in their entire feed. And I sent it to the boys and I said, literally, Shamasco sighting. What Dermot was saying to me the other day, he's so right. Whenever we go to these Comic-Con things, everybody comes up to us with the iconic Young Guns poster.
Mm-hmm.
I sign off to the right because I'm the snitch and I'm not pictured. But everybody has everybody's signature except for Casey's. He didn't even need to go to him. If he just signed with a signing agent, they would send those. He would make thousands.
Yeah, he would kill it.
He would kill it. And then those posters become worth so much.
I have friends who shall remain nameless for obvious reasons, but they tell me about the duffel bags of cash that they leave cons with. Like, Casey, if you're out there, buddy, go pick up your duffel bag.
They're pulling your leg because they're not duffel bags, but you leave with a lot of cash. But if you're up, I mean, sure, if there's some huge celebrity, like I'm sure Giancarlo Esposito, who's the king of the cons, he just is. He flies all over the world. And I'm sure his duffel bag is first filled by the promoters.
Yeah.
And a guarantee. That's why he's there. If I get a guarantee, it's not going to be a duffel bag. The fans do come out and, you sign their things and it's nice to meet them. And it usually is all cash. It's an interesting subculture.
It is a very fascinating subculture.
Hey, Streetwalkers, here's a word from our sponsors. Let's get back into it.
How is it different researching a role when you're playing a real person versus one that's made up for the project? How difficult is that research, or how different is it, and how much has it changed with the invention of the internet? Because like when you were in Young Guns, that dude really existed, but the internet didn't. So you had to go to the library.
Ding, 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 ding. Yes, I had to go to the library.
Which, incidentally, that's what Tommy was doing here. He was, a couple of days ago, he was doing a signing at some con, but then he went to the library as part of his Stay Golden Foundation or something.
Yeah, no, he has a Stay Golden Foundation. So he was probably screening Outsiders.
That makes sense.
He travels all over the country with meeting the fans. They do a screening of it. Darren Dalton joins him sometimes. They talk about Stay Gold and Pony Boy. It's such an influential book still.
Yeah, they still teach that book in schools here in Texas. Yeah.
My son's birthday last year, we actually went to see Outsiders, the musical, on his birthday, right before it won the Tony.
Nice.
Yeah, and then they're still amazed. They say, well, yeah, Pony Boy was the best man in your mom and I's wedding. No way. I go, yeah. But yeah, research in the library for sure. It's still questionable whether McCloskey actually was a spy.
History is written by the winners, so we'll never know.
We'll never know. And I wish he wasn't, because then I could be in Young Guns 3. So the last few years, I've done a lot of real people. I played Kenny O'Donnell,
Godfather Harlem, right?
which was my introduction to Chris Brancato, who I met through Paul Eckstein, who was the other show creator. Kenny O'Donnell was the chief of staff
For JFK.
JFK. A lot of research on him. These two adults approached me once after the show, and I met them, and it turned out that they were actually the adult children of Kenny O'Donnell. Their father has been portrayed in other movies. Costner played him in 24 Hours or 23 Hours, whatever that was called. And they said, thank you. And I said, well, why? They said, for the very first time, we could close our eyes and we could hear our father. So I did enough research to understand how the man speaks and what his accent was. It's not a Boston accent. It's a combination of Kennedy accent, Kennebunkport accent, and then Boston thrown in, and then a little bit of Irish. So he did that one, and I found out who he was and all that. And then after that, I did Midway, where I played John Ford, the legendary director.
Mm-hmm.
Again, tons of research, documentaries, and again, it was about capturing his voice. You don't do an impersonation, but you figure out where it sits, what it is. John Ford's case, he comes from Upper Maine, so he got a seaboard Upper Maine accent. And then his parents are very Irish. So he's first generation. So you get a little bit of Irish that's thrown in. He had a very grovelly voice, as do I in some ways, very influenced because he liked to drink whiskey now and then, more now than then. And he also smoked cigars and was most famous for his pipe. He always had a pipe on set. And Roland said...
Roland
Emmerich, yes. Roland said after... I asked him, why me? Because I saw thousands of people for this. He said, you were one of the, I think maybe the only actor who actually brought a pipe to the audition.
Do you still have it?
I do. You do?
Hell yeah, you do.
We all liberate a lot of info. I still have the hat from Young Guns.
Hell yeah. Do you still have that Donna Karen suit?
I do.
Nice.
Absolutely do. That was some Ed TV.
Love that.
Yes, shoulder pads and all.
Did you say that they really are working on Young Guns 3? Is that something Emilio's trying to do?
Yeah, it's being done. It's being greenlit.
Oh, fantastic. Is he going to direct it?
He is. And he wrote it. He wrote it with Fusco.
What of the Emilio projects that he directed have you been in?
5 of them. Let's count them down. Young Guns, Men at Work,
Mm-hmm.
Rated X,
Mm-hmm.
The War at Home,
Mm-hmm.
and then one he didn't direct, but just acted in, called Nightbreaker. Nobody can find it.
Sure. You have been in so many projects with some of the same people. Like you've been in a ton of projects with Tom Hanks. You've been in a ton of Ron Howard projects. You've been in a ton of Emilio projects. Are you at a point now in your relationship with some of these folks that you work with all the time? Like, do you have to audition or they just call you up and they go, hey, Blakey, I need you?
It depends. Bob Zemeckis used to just call me up. Yeah, it really depends. Yeah, Ron Howard, you still audition, but you come in. It's going to be a big ensemble piece. And we always say that we're the Ron Howard players. And if he's going to do a big historical piece, we really want him to do a Bill Clinton piece because then we could all be in it.
Okay. Did you really play a role in getting the paparazzi to be designated as aggressive panhandlers and not allowed within 100 yards of places of early education in Santa Monica?
And you are good. Yes. Robert Shriver, not Robert Kennedy Jr., was a city councilman in Santa Monica. He may have been in the head of the city council at that point. But anyway, so I went to a preschool in Santa Monica with my older son. I didn't go to it. My older son went. We always say we went because you basically do. It was at the height of Ben and Jen, not Lopez, but Garner. And it was their 4-year-old that was there. And Jen was pregnant and very close to having number 2. And the paparazzi would line up in front of the preschool and they would just snap and we'd have to fight. I would help them fight through to get them like I would stand in front of people. I'd block their cameras. And one time I had Xander on my shoulders and I was blocking the cameras, letting Jen and Ben get in safety. And it's disgusting, the things that these paparazzis would yell at Ben. They want a reaction. They want him to come at them. It really was disgusting. I mean, literally things that are so inappropriate to say in front of 4-year-olds.
Or wives.
Or wives, of course. And all of the different wives that were there. Gwyneth and Chris were there as well, Paltrow Martin. So this incident happened where Xander was on my shoulders. This paparazzi got so aggressive. He was trying to bring his camera across to shoot over me, and he clocked my 4-year-old with his lens.
Ooh.
And that was it. I had it. So I went and I called Bobby Shriver's office and said, this is out of control. There has to be something that we can do to curtail this. They're celebrities. Okay, they've made that bed, their row, whatever it is. But our kids should not have to pay for this. So we devised it. We said at that point, there was a big homeless issue going on in Santa Monica. Very aggressive panhandlers on the streets asking for money. So Bobby came up with the idea that basically they're panhandle. They are on our curbs. They are doing it in public places, and they are taking whatever they're doing on the curb and they're making money with it. That is the definition of panhandling. And aggressive panhandling was the city's statute we came up with. So if they wanted to pay huge fines, they could continue to do it. But none of them were going to do that because they weren't making enough money to pay for these huge fines. So it literally curtailed the panhandling problem, and they had to stay where they couldn't be heard. They could shoot with their long lenses, but they couldn't be in Ben and Jen's face.
And this is specifically tied to preschools.
It ended up being tied to preschools, early education, and high schools.
Oh, good. So from high school all the way down. Oh, that's fantastic.
I mean, there were others there. It was Laura Dern was there. Meg Ryan wasn't just Ben and Jen, but they were the most aggressive with Ben and Jen.
Well, kudos to you, my friend. Way to fight. I love it.
Yep.
I love that. We haven't really hardly talked about any of your actual career, so I'm going to ask you to come back on at another point. I need you to tell me, if you will, tell me about that one time that Lizzo recognized you.
No, I'm not going to discuss that.
What?
Nope. Passing that one. Not getting into the Lizzo world. But yes.
That is hilarious.
Yes, she did. And yes, she was lovely. And yes, she was fantastic. And that's all I'm going to say.
Love it. You and your wife are screenwriters, or she is, or you were? Is that how that works?
For 5 years, we were probably one of the hottest screenwriting teams in Hollywood. We were called the Blakes. She had written a play. This was the earliest parts of it. I dared her to write a screenplay. And she wrote a screenplay. And then I had a friend of a friend who was a friend of Madonna's and got the script to Madonna. And Madonna wanted to do it. So that was our start there. And then we started to write together. And we wrote a spec script. And that spec script got into the hands of a very famous entertainment attorney named Carlos Goodman. And Carlos Goodman loved it. He slipped it to, at the time, Scott Greenberg, who was a literary agent at CAA. Scott Greenberg loved it. And in the meantime, we had a little job we had done. We had adapted a screenplay called Lady of the Monster. It was a story of Gloria Trevi, who was a very famous Mexican pop singer who also got involved with a Svengali kind of P. Diddy-ish manager who ended up being very lurid. And he had this harem of 14 and 15-year-old girl singers that he was basically molesting all of them. So we wrote that, and then CAA read that. So they had 2 scripts now. And for Lady of the Monster, within a week, Penelope Cruz was attached to play Gloria Trevi. It went out. People in town read it. We met with every top production company in town. And then Gloria Trevi's story led to a movie called 17 Stone Angels, which is what we're trying to do with Lou now. 17 Stone Angels was a novel that they needed adapted, also set in an Hispanic set in Buenos Aires. And Robert Towne, Chinatown Robert Towne, the greatest screenplay writer of the time, he wanted to direct it. And so he hired us to adapt it. And the producer on it was Paula Wagner and Tom Cruise. So that was why I was at Paramount. Hence, full circle back to trying to get the rights back from Paramount.
Got you.
From that point on, we wrote a movie for Warner Brothers, wrote a movie for Tribeca. We were cooking with gas. And then I got burnt out. You know, we still do write some. I'm an actor by trade. She's a great writer. Still do write, but it's not my passion.
At one point, you were considering writing a sequel to Brink. Did you ever do that?
Where did you find this out? We did not know, but I still would love to. That is one of the most, particularly the con world, that is the most surprising following There's not a day I don't hear from some 30-year-old just walking down the street. I don't hear somebody yell out, Jimmy. Jimmy! I guess I maybe look like him a little bit still.
Yeah, maybe you just live near a bunch of Jimmys. Maybe it's not about you, man.
I do live in a beach town, and there are a lot of 30-year-olds, and there are a lot of skaters. So that makes sense.
That is fantastic. Like I said, I'm going to have you come back because we really got to talk about specifically some of these projects.
And I will come back for sure. I want to do Brink, but set in the skate world, skateboarding, not rollerblading.
Let's see here. We can pull some strings. We can get Jason Lee. Jason Lee will come be part of that project. He was a skateboard star.
My son's a big skateboarder.
Oh, well, then we'll get him in it.
And we're also acquainted with Paul Rodriguez's son, who is gigantic in this.
Kid's huge. Yeah. Huge. Wow. Geoffrey Blake. Oh my gosh. Definitely gonna have to have you back. But for this particular episode, is there anything that specifically you wanted to talk about that we didn't get to today?
Nope.
Nope. All right.
You are Columbo of trivial facts.
All right, cool. Geoffrey, oh my God, Geoffrey Blake, the star of all of my childhood and young adults and adults films and TV shows. Dude, I love you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day and your hectic acting, teaching, writing, and just protecting all of the little preschoolers' schedule to hang out.
Fortunately, I don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, well, thanks. Yeah, fortunately. Thank you for letting us get to know you a little bit better on Fascination Street, man. I really appreciate it.
You, Steve, and we will do it again soon.
Abso-effing-lutely. Thank you, dude. I will keep in touch.
Yes, please.
Thank you, buddy. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Do, man. Bye.
Thanks, buddy.
Opening music is the song FSP Theme, written, performed, and provided by Ambush Ven.
Closing music is from the song Say My Name off the 2021 album Underdog Anthems, used with permission from Jax Hollow. If you like the show, tell a friend. Subscribe and rate and review the show on iTunes and wherever else you download podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. All the episodes are available there as well. Check me out on Vero at Fascination Street Pod and TikTok at Fascination Street Pod. And again, thanks for listening.